As Ukrainian forces re-entered the Kiev suburb of Bucha earlier this month, following a Russian retreat of forces, they reported finding hundreds of civilian bodies lying in streets or in hastily dug mass graves. Images show some of the victims with their hands still tied behind their backs.
Irina Kostenko wanted to talk about the 10th of March, the day the Russians killed her only son, Alexei.
Across Kiev's outskirts, survivors tell similar stories, like that of an elderly mother whose daughter, Tatiana Pomazanko, was shot dead at her front door while watching a column of Russian tanks roll up her street in the early days of the war.
The massacre in our city of Bucha is only one, unfortunately, only one of many examples of what the occupiers have been doing on our land for the past 41 days.
The Bucha killings follow earlier reports that Russian forces have been targeting Ukrainian civilians, including a maternity hospital in Mariupol and a theater in the same city that had the Russian word for children, "Дети," clearly marked next to it in huge letters. The Russians, for their part, have accused the Ukrainians of violating the rules of war, too. On March 16th, a White House reporter asked President Biden if he was ready to call Vladimir Putin a war criminal. And Biden's answer was clear.
Oh, I think he is a war criminal.
The White House tried to temper Biden's remarks, but it begs the question, what makes a war crime a war crime? Something we should know. According to the United Nations, a war crime is a serious breach of international law committed against civilians or enemy combatants. Unlike a genocide or crimes against humanity, war crimes can only occur within the context of armed conflict. The term itself has ancient origins. The Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "Treat the captives well and care for them." But it wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that a modern definition took hold. The first Geneva Convention of 1864 defined the basis on which rest the rules of international law for the protection of the victims of armed conflicts. In 1946, the world watched newsreel footage of Nuremberg trials that sent elite Nazi officers to the gallows.
The International Military Tribunal sentences you to death by hanging.
The 1949 Geneva Convention further codified the rules of war. Modern efforts to prosecute war criminals led to the 2002 establishment of the International Criminal Court, or ICC, in The Hague, as well as various UN-led courts like the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. Such international bodies have tried the likes of former Yugoslav leader Slobodan Milošević and former Liberian leader Charles Taylor. Some on the dock have tried to escape justice on their own terms. Bosnian Croat Slobodan Milošević died hours after drinking poison during his UN war crimes trial.
Stop, please. Please sit down.
Stunned silence ensuing at the UN War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague on Wednesday.
But here's the thing about international criminal courts. Not everyone is on board. The United States, Russia, and China, all three, aren't members of the ICC. President Clinton did sign a treaty to join the court in 2000, but Congress refused to ratify it. And then the George W. Bush administration justified America's absence from the court by saying that the ICC could bring politically motivated cases against the United States. Why that would be a uniquely American problem and not, say, also apply to Germany or Japan, both themselves ICC members, is not clear. But it does make it harder for the White House to accuse Moscow of war crimes in Ukraine when it refuses to join the global court where a trial could take place.